Hello my friends, welcome to my channel if you're new here, welcome back if you're a returning subscriber. My name is Brittany. On this channel I share my stupid opinions about the books I've been reading. Today's book is Just Me by Blake Pierce. This is Cami Lark FBI #1, and let's go ahead and jump into average ratings for Goodreads in the story graph before we get into the actual review for me. So Goodreads has this at 4.1 with 2,770 ratings. The story graph has it at 3.25. The story graph does not have any content warnings listed, so let's go ahead and talk about the synopsis. Cami Lark is an MIT tech genius and is not who you would expect to be teaming up with the FBI. Her tattoos, her piercings, her rebellious, anti-authoritarian attitude, and all that kind of lines her up to not be the candidate that you would expect for the FBI. But she finds herself in deep shit when she hacks the FBI's server, and she's given the choice to go to prison or help the FBI in hunting down a serial killer. For obvious reasons, she chooses the latter, and we'll talk about what this book specifically focuses on. So in this book, we have a serial killer who has a penchant for augmented reality, meaning the killer seeks out women specifically to take out while they are playing a virtual reality game. And they have their headsets on so they can't see or hear them approach. We've got a long list of suspects and dead ends at every corner. Cami's first case really isn't shaping up to be that promising. She's working alongside the very people who fumbled her own sister's missing persons case back when Cami was a kid. Cami's thrust into this setting where she's deeply distrustful, and she's also opening up these old wounds. Can Cami save herself and the next victim before it's too late? That's the synopsis paraphrased by me. If I were to write my own synopsis, I'd know this would not be a spoiler-free review. We're gonna go ahead and get into it. I will say this. From the synopsis alone, I really thought that this book was gonna be right up my alley. It's not. There are two main players in this story. We have Cami Lark, who is at the very top of her class at MIT. She's set to graduate so soon. And we have Agent Connor, whose first name is mentioned so little that I literally can't remember it. He's super stern, super by the book, and absolutely hands down at the end of the day, a stereotypical cop. Out of the two main characters in this book, it is very abundantly clear to me that the author chose to focus on Cami more so than anybody else, and that makes sense because this is Cami's story after all. We know up front that Cami is very distrusting of the FBI because they messed up Cami's sister's case when she was a kid. We learn that Cami has some sort of very deeply rooted daddy issue that appears to stem from an abusive father who also happened to be a cop. Cami is heavily tattooed, pierced. She wears clothes that are supposed to make her easily identifiable as edgy, meaning she wears Doc Martens. Agent Connor really and truly is not very well developed. He's been with the FBI for a really long time, and he doesn't seem to care for his boss. He's a team lead and is heading up this specific investigation into the augmented reality murders that are plaguing Boston. I can't tell you anything else about him. Literally, there's nothing. Side characters, completely dull, so uninteresting. I can't even remember the case manager who was assigned to Cami. I can't even remember why it was deemed necessary for Cami to have a case manager, specifically within the FBI. Like it's somebody like a social worker who's supposed to help her navigate the FBI, even though she works for the FBI for 3 days in this whole book. We have Ethan, who is a part of Agent Connor's lead. I don't know what Ethan's last name is. All I do know is that he's young, he's been with the FBI for less than a year, and Cami may or may not have the hots for him. I didn't feel a connection to a single character in this book. I did not care about a single character in this book. 2 out of 10. This book could literally have taken place anywhere, and the only reason that I know it's set in Boston is because that's mentioned a lot. This book is labeled as suspenseful, and when you label a book suspenseful, I anticipate feeling kind of on the edge of my seat, at least at some point in the story, and that was not the case. At no point did I feel on edge, even when it was clear to me that the author was turning on the heat, so to speak, trying to make you feel edgy. Not once. Not a single time did I feel like, oh my god, I need to know what happens next. So the atmosphere was not great. I simply didn't care. I gave it a 2 out of 10. There's a lot to be said when it comes to the writing of this book. Some adjectives that I would use are awkward, hard, clunky, oddly paced. I think that it's best in situations like this where I'm shitting on the writing to provide some samples of the writing. So prepare for a dramatic reading of some lines from this book. I'm Special Agent Connor from the FBI, Connor said. I didn't send those texts to anyone. I don't know why you're here. You guys, you must leave now. I want my lawyer. You need to wait. I'm not saying a thing without my lawyer, seeing as how I'm an innocent man and all. Release our client now. The lawyer to the right of the three pressured him. No, I don't trust you. Connor's words were like a bombshell, and as he spoke, Cami felt tears flood her eyes. She couldn't believe it. Nothing she could do, no effort she could make, would break through this man's trust and dislike of her. Was he seriously going to put lives in jeopardy by blocking her from doing something that could help? He was good at moving unseen in the real world, and this was an essential skill for his particular brand of hunting. And scene. That's it for me dramatically reading lines from the book. I didn't want to pull too much because that doesn't seem fair for me, but I did highlight a bunch of shit in this book, and I will make my notes public on Goodreads if you want to find it down below. I gave the writing a 2 out of 10, and I feel like that was generous, especially because I promise you that he was good at moving unseen in the real world. That is not me making a typo in my notes that are behind you. That is actually copied from Goodreads. And yes, it does say I'm Special Agent Connor from the FBI. I just don't think that that's how FBI agents would introduce themselves. Basically, Cami hacks the FBI and is offered a job then to help track down serial killers instead of serving time in prison. That's it. There's literally nothing else to say. It sounded interesting. It was not. We go through 3 suspects in this book. So even the synopsis saying endless suspects, no, there were 3. None of them were mentioned as suspects during the investigations, like the interim part of the investigations, which I assume would matter. There's no backstory like to indicate who these people are and why they would be, except for one of the suspects who ends up not even being it. The book ended so fucking abruptly after the suspect is apprehended. Like, it just ends. And the book's only 160 fucking pages long. Like, what? Also, if you're new here, I am staunchly against love interests in thrillers where the love interest is not necessary as a love interest, and this is an offender because Ethan and Cami, it's very clear that we're being set up for them to fall in love, and I'm not here for it. I don't stand for that. 2 out of 10 for plot, and we're moving on to intrigue. Like I just said, this book is less than 200 pages long. I read 24 pages the first night that I read this book. I read 112 pages the second night, and I finished the book the next day at work. I only had 12 pages left when I put the book down the night before. I simply did not want to read. I was so uninterested in this. The plot, the characters, the writing. Everything made me dread picking this up. It was a 1. I read you the line where Cami's crying because Connor doesn't trust her. I just want to let you all know that when she's crying because he doesn't trust her, that was less than 24 hours after she started working for the FBI. Am I wrong to think that it would not be illogical for him to trust her? There is that for logic, you know. I literally screamed, you hacked the FBI less than 24 hours ago, you dumb fucking bitch. Like, bonus points for Connor though, because he pointed out this fact shortly thereafter, and I was like, finally, someone has some sense. But other than that, logic was a 2. I know y'all can tell just how much I enjoyed this book. I finished it. I probably should have DNF'd, but I finished it, and I think that that counts for something, so it gets a 1. It's not the lowest I've scored something. 14 out of 70, 1.71 average, and a 1 star for me. I will not be continuing the series, which is 10 books, by the way. If you like the video, feel free to leave me a like. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any other Blake Pierce books and if I should give them a second chance. I'm curious if there are others out there that are better than this one, because this one was not it for me. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe to my channel. It's free for you and fun for me, because nothing is more fun than bitching about books that I don't like. I will see you all very soon in my next video. Bye.